Due to the following CBS School Break special, Magnum PI will not be seen today. It will be broadcast tomorrow in the regular time period.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners.
Now available to order at your local comic shop, it's Sal Abenanti's new graphic novel, The Hostage.
Hostage is set in the streets of Rio de Janeiro, based on the plight of the street children that live in the favelas. In the world of the graphic novel, being murdered daily, and the hostage is the evil spirit that is raised to avenge their death. Origins go all the way back to the indigenous tribes of the Amazon as the spirits that protect children, especially murdered children. The level of death that these kids have to endure every day. They have nowhere to sleep. They have no place to eat. They have to survive off of begging. There were nobody in capes that were coming to save these kids.
Pick up Sal Abenanti's latest graphic novel, The Hostage. Order now at your local comic shop through Diamond's Previews catalog. Code DEC221534. Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. I'm sure all of us as comic fans, when we watch the credits of TV shows or films, we get excited when we see a familiar name. And that's certainly the case with today's guest, who has really made his mark in television as well as comics in the last several years. Ben Raab joins us. Welcome, Ben. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, John. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. You're kicking ass. I've really enjoyed the shows you've been with, whether it's been shows in the Arrowverse and certainly what you've been doing this year with Quantum Leap. My God, great show. Fantastic show, man.
Yeah, thanks.
So, we're going to get into comic book stuff. And also, hopefully, I saw maybe something that's already or still in the works as far as TV that you might be doing with Reggie Hudlin, if that's still the case. Am I right about one project coming up?
Well, we've got a couple of different projects that we worked with Reggie on. One was based on the IDW graphic novel Infinite Kung Fu. It was a TV pitch that my writing partner Derek Hughes and I were developing with them. Steve DeKnight was also involved, and Kevin Tancherone. So some really great people to sort of to partner up with. We were working on that like in 2021. Project's still kind of up in the air, uncertain what's going to happen with it, but it did lead to obviously a working relationship with Reggie that Derek and I were able to sort of capitalize on when we found out that Reggie was going to be directing a movie based on the Belgian graphic novel Black Cotton Star, which we're writing the script for, and we just turned in our latest draft, and hopefully, the guys like it, the team. We got great producing partners, Adrian Ascarie and Ara Kashishian. And so hopefully 2023 will be the year of Black Cotton Star. Would be nice.
That's great, man. No, it sounds like a really cool story. I've never read the graphic novel, but it's a World War II story. And pretty neat about the first American flag.
So, right. So it's a story that when we first read it, we're like, is this real? Is this true? I don't think it is, but the premise is that these three black soldiers who are serving in the U.S. military in World War II, who kind of want to do more. One of them especially wants to do more. He wants to be a soldier. Black soldiers at the time were not really given the chance to sort of fight alongside the white soldiers. So it ends up being the story about them having to go sent on this mission through the Monuments Men to retrieve the original colonial flag sewn by Betsy Ross, or was it really Betsy Ross? And there's sort of this alt history that plays out through the origin of the flag, that's connected to one of our main characters. And it was just a really cool and compelling story that when we first read it, we thought, okay, we have to check the internet to see if this is truth. Couldn't find anything on it. And then we're like, okay, I guess it's a fiction. But it's a really cool story, and we've just had such a great time working with those guys, and we're just really excited about that project.
I love reading European comics and their interpretation of American society, because it is always interesting. That's great, man. No, it sounds like a fun story. And the Monuments Men, certainly, the real history behind that, the great movie that Bill Murray, Bob Balaban, and company made, back a couple of years ago. No, I think that's a lot of fun. And Reggie's awesome. I've had the pleasure of hanging and also having him on the show. And he's one of us. He's a nerd, which is great.
Yes. Yeah, no, exactly. It was nice to sort of on Infinite Kung Fu sort of develop a working shorthand with him, so that when obviously we had to compete for this project, we were the ones that they chose to go with, and it just I think it helped to be able to have a little bit of a shorthand with someone who, when he says, "Oh, I'm looking for this," it's like, "Oh, we know exactly what you're looking for." Like you don't have to spell it out for us. You just said, "Oh, I want this sequence to be like this, from this movie or this comic book." I'm like, got it. We know what you're talking about.
Well, and as you say, some of the other names you mentioned, like Steve DeKnight, of course, killing it with Daredevil and going back to Angel and great projects like that. No, that's terrific. And again, the guys you're working with on Quantum Leap, way to go, man. Because there was certainly rumors, and I was even arguing with some friends who are like, "Oh, that's not going to last." I'm like, hold on. I'm like, first of all, a tough slot in the fall during football season on Monday nights. Even now that Monday Night Football is on cable rather than the over-the-air networks, I know that's a killer for a lot of shows. And I think people were just looking at ratings and going, "Well, I don't know if it's going to make it." And then I'm like, "Yeah, but it's like the most watched show on Peacock." And I'm the networks aren't stupid. Streaming is certainly part of the equation, especially even for the over-the-air networks. So
Yeah, I mean, this is it's an NBC Universal property. It's something that I think they've got a deep vested interest in. It's one of their, the few, I think, if maybe the only drama that was picked up last season for the fall, slate. So there was a lot of pressure riding on it, and a lot of desire to sort of, honor the legacy of a successful series from their past. And we came on after the original pilot had been shot, and so we, the original room that was assembled in the wake of that there was already kind of a focus to it and a direction for it. And I mean, obviously, we had to find our way over the course of the season, but it was always like they'd found this amazing cast and assembled this amazing cast that, I mean, Raymond Lee, Caitlin Bassett, Mason Park, Nan Risley, and I mean, Ernie Hudson. I mean, come on, like you can't go wrong with all of these people in the mix, and they're just they're wonderful people to work with, and it's no surprise that the show is doing as well as it is due to their efforts. I mean, yes, The Room, we take credit for some of that. It starts with us, but they take what we give them and they bring it to life, and our production team is amazing. So we're really just, I don't know, it's a great synergy and alchemy that's happening on this show, and it's really a pleasure to be a part of.
That's excellent, man. Now, I heard that the show's already been picked up for season 2, which is great. Are we going to get 18 episodes this season? How many are we going to get?
Season 1 is 18 episodes, right? There was an initial order of 12, and they gave us 6 more. We've broken through the finale, and we've already started talking about season 2. I'm not going to spoil anything because I know there's a lot of questions that people have that they want to know what's going to happen with this. Where's this going? Well, you're just going to have to tune in and find out. But I will say, as someone on the inside, but also objectively as someone who is a fan of the genre and this kind of show, I think you're going to enjoy where people are going to enjoy where we're taking it. So
it's exciting, man. Yeah. Well, now again, you weren't part of the original pilot plan, but I'm sure you asked that question of, are we going to start brand new, or are we going to, continue the legacy of the show? I think truly, I really think you guys have come up with a great balance. But did you ask in terms of that debate, or did you just come in and go, okay, well, we're, it's Ben's story, but it's still also the legacy of Sam's story as well.
Yeah. I mean, we're not a reboot; we're a sequel. There's no question that we were a sequel, and we it would have been very easy to just say start over, fresh new faces, same concept, right? Because it is a very, and I say this in an affectionate way, a broad general concept. It's a time travel show where you're righting the wrongs of the past. Like it doesn't get any simpler and cleaner than that. And I think for us, what was exciting, I mean, I won't speak for everybody on the set, but I think for a lot of us anyway, it was the idea that we get to sort of build on the foundation of what came beforehand, make it our own. It just gives it another level of weight and gravitas to have it connected to the original series, through characters like Magic, through, Al's daughter Janice, it's a little bit like going from original series to Next Generation, right? Like it's
Absolutely.
it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty exciting.
Absolutely, man. No, as soon as they name check Ernie Hudson as Magic, it's like, I know who that is.
Yeah.
And I'm sure all of us did it, which is so great. And then again, as you've all spun the web, it's really been fun. I'm not going to ask you to spoil. I don't want you to spoil. But I think Down has an interesting question, and that is, does the waiting room still exist? And then he also wants to know if we'll ever learn what happened to Dr. Verbena Wex. And I don't remember that character, but
yeah, she was in the HQ in what was it, season 4, the premiere, I think it was, when Sam went back to Quantum Leap headquarters.
Oh yes, okay, yeah, sure. When he was
sure. And Al always referenced Dr. Verbena, so like I think there was okay. Listen, I have a hard time getting my own head around the concept of the waiting room. I know it's a thing that's very simple, and for whatever reason, my brain just doesn't process it. We're not really playing with that notion of the waiting room. I mean, I think fans who've watched the first 8 episodes have seen kind of, we have a slightly different take on it. I justify it in my head as advancements in technology, and I hope that's a satisfactory answer.
All right, fair enough, man. No. And again, everything's fair game, and there are slight changes. That's okay. But yeah, certainly, I wondered as well. Right. And it finally changes the notion of the show to a degree. I love the fact that you guys have enough room to tell the problem of the week story as well as what's happening at Quantum Leap HQ, and I think that's great. I mean, we only got glimpses back in the Bacula days. Mm-hmm. And it is so great that it is such an important part. And it's that dual track that a lot of TV shows are doing. But I think you guys handle the problem of the week balance quite well.
Yeah, I mean, we very much have worked very hard on that balance. Like that's oddly, it's funny because it's one of the more difficult things when you come from a place like comic books, which is serialized, where there's all these things being juggled on a monthly basis. And, you've got to keep those balls in the air, and the fans kind of expect it. So, when you spend your entire childhood and adolescence being exposed to that kind of storytelling, it becomes very much how you like to the impulse to want to create things that way. Network television audiences don't always view it that way, right? Their viewing experience is sometimes a one and done. Sometimes they like a little bit more serialized. Sometimes they like less serialized. Sometimes they just love I want to see our hero go do something cool in the context of the story he's in, which, Dr. Ben's song, righting the wrongs of the past, and there have been, vocal people who are like, I don't really care about what's going on at headquarters. It's like, but we do, because these are the people in his world. Like that's part of I think the responsibility of having a different version of the show than the original. Whereas the original, yes, Dr. Verbena Weeks was referenced, by Al and rarely ever seen, but was always bubbling in the background until that one episode. For us, it's a different scenario. For us, it's we're visiting these people, we're living with these people, and they are part of Ben's journey. For better or for worse. Sometimes we get it right. Sometimes maybe we could have done that better, but it's always in the service of saying that what makes this show unique from the original is that these people are like a family to Ben, and they're all working together on this, on the missions of the week, but they've got shit that they're dealing with as well that's going to affect his story.
Absolutely, man. No, and it is so well cast because truly, I think we warm up to everybody, especially Ben. And forgive me, I'm forgetting the actor's name, who plays Ben. But man, right away, man, you like this guy and you're rooting for him.
Raymond Lee, yeah. Raymond in in real life, he's as personable and nice and funny and charming as his character is. So when you have that and you're number one on the call sheet, you're starting at a really good place, and that energy sort of trickles down through everybody else. But I mean, like I said, we have amazing talents, incredibly professional cast. Everyone's just really happy to be there, and it's a pleasure to work with them.
The what episodes in particular have we seen that you've got your fingerprints on?
I did my partner Derek and I, we did number 5. We wrote the Western.
Oh, that's great, man. No, it was terrific.
Yes, Salvation or Bust was us. We got another one coming in the second episode back after the break. So 2 weeks from now, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil any of that, but if you saw the trailer for what's coming, you saw some clips of it. Ben's delivering a baby in that one. So it tells you some of what the milieu and the genre that we're playing in, sort of our ER Grey's Anatomy homage.
That's great. That's great to hear, man. And yeah, so the show's back on the 2nd, this coming Monday.
Yep.
That's wonderful. And and we got 10 episodes before the end of the season to get through. So that's good to hear. And the twists are great. The concept, your guys' spin on an evil leaper, and also just the question of when this leaper comes from, because God, the interrogation scene that we got in the early episodes, guy has no idea what the hell they're talking about. So clearly it's a future version. And then even the mid-season cliffhanger when we discover while Ben still doesn't remember everything, he does know that he's gone to help Addison, right? It's Addison. Yeah. And she's great too. My God, great chemistry right away. I mean, hey, we all loved Scott and Dean and how great they were, and that bromance that they had going was excellent, and you can't recapture that. But honestly, sometimes when they and I mean big TV, when they juxtapose characters and stuff, and you're like, all right, Elementary, all right, Sherlock Holmes, all right, Watson's a woman now. All right, whatever, and you don't know if it's going to work or not, and it does. Thankfully, it did. It was good, and it's the case with Addison and Ben.
Absolutely, no. And look, this is in how do you plant flags that say this is not your father's quantum leap? Instead of just saying, oh well, they're partners. It's they're partners in life, that they have a romantic relationship, and I think you root for them in a different way than you did for like the bromance, right? That was one kind of chemistry. This is a completely different kind of chemistry, and it's a love story at the heart of our show. I mean, time lost love stories and time traveling love stories are Outlander, Time Traveler's Wife. Like there's plenty of examples where it's like audiences do like that kind of thing, and we really lucked out in having two talents that really gel incredibly well together. This is Caitlin's first real big gig, and she's former military in real life. Like she was involved in helping the Afghan people get out of the country. Like so she and Addison are almost hand in hand, very similar people. But she's so funny and she's so charming. And like once we got past the mystery reveal to Ben that the reason you have a connection to this woman isn't just you work together, it's that you're engaged to one another. It just sort of opened up the opportunity to really dig into that chemistry and play it up more. And Caitlin herself, like perfect example in episode 5, in our episode, the Western, when she sees him in the cowboy outfit, she pitched this great ad lib of, this whole cowboy thing, it's really working, and it was like, that's great. It's just a great way to sort of, and his response to it, which again, great improv between the two of them, was just so like, it just made you love these two people all the more and understand why they have a relationship with each other.
No, I get it, man. That's great. I'm looking on Twitter because I solicited for questions there.
Yeah.
There we go. Dave Silly wanted to let you know his 2 favorite episodes this far has been the Halloween episode, which was great. My God,
episode.
and your episode, the Western,
Oh,
and he
yeah.
wants to know, and again, without spoiling, you've already said obviously we're going to see Ben deliver a baby. Other genres still to come, obviously in the mix as far as problem of the week.
Yes. I don't know how much I can say because I don't know how much has been announced. But uh, look, there's certain things you can always expect from a genre. A genre of the week show. You're going to get a legal episode. You're going to get a military episode. You're going to get all these kinds of things, and the fun of it is what you're going to get to know about the characters within the context of those episodes.
Sure.
Like we've got in our back 5, I would say. No, 5, 6 actually. No, wait, my math is wrong. Back 4. Terrible at math. This is why I'm a writer. In our last 4 episodes, like you're gonna get to know things about Addison. You're gonna get to know things about Ben. You're gonna get to know things about Ian and Jen. Like it's really cool. And because we get to sort of play in these different genres, it gives opportunity to unlock other things about these characters that you didn't know thus far.
That's cool. Yeah, Ian's been a good, comfortable character as well, I think, who makes a statement for who he is, who they are. Pardon me.
Yes,
I think, I think again another very likable character introduced and showing some good balance on your guys' part.
Look, we people talk about diversity and inclusion. You got to walk the walk. You can't just talk the talk, right? And I think this show, we work very hard to try and do that. It's important to us, and because there's a whole other range of stories you can tell when you add in the experience of people who maybe you don't see all the time on television, and it just you never know whose mind it's going to change. You never know whose life it's going to change, and it's not like we're not like setting out to do that, but that's a beautiful sort of side effect of what a show like this can do, is that it can show people they can see themselves in television, they can see their stories represented, they can see their experiences, in a way that they just that gives them hope and confidence and help sometimes. So yeah, it's great to be able to do that.
Just like the original, there's also gender bending in the show where Ben is leaping into women just like Sam did as well. And yeah, I mean, I again, I'm a product of my time. I don't recall any really, oh god, if they did it that way back then, it kind of comes off weird now. Is there that kind of concern in the writers' room
Absolutely.
when Ben leaps into a woman?
Yep. Episode 4 was the first time we did it. Actually in episode 10, that's our episode, the medical one. The title's on IMDb, so it's Paging Dr. Song. In Paging Dr. Song, he is in the body of a woman.
Okay.
And yes, there's very much the, how do we present it in a way that's respectful? How is it respectful?
Sure.
How is it do it justice in a way that it doesn't undermine what we're trying to say in the episode, because some people might take it the wrong way or make light of it or whatever. We've worked very hard at that, and it's important to us. And I think you're going to see, probably more instances in season 2 where it's, maybe we did it 70-30, maybe we'll do it 50-50, why not? Right.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's cool, man. No, the Bounty Hunter episode was great.
Yeah.
I cover boxing. I loved the boxing episode. That was fantastic. I love where you guys are going. And again, you're showing that there is enough room in a commercial hour, 40 minutes or whatever you have to play with, where you can do balance and do the problem of the week, but also address, the season long situation that you're dealing with. And I really think you guys are achieving it. I've seen people say, I want a little bit more of the problem of the week. And I'm like, I don't know, man. For me, it works because almost too, like being an old fan, it's like, this is, it just like Star Trek. This is the structure of Quantum Leap. So us old fans, we're used to it. And I don't think we need as much of the problem of the week as this new intriguing idea of what's really happening back at HQ.
Yeah. And I think I think season 2, will probably be a little less mythology heavy, just because I think, look, season 1, you got to plant your foundations. You got to really set everything up. And obviously what we've done this year will have a direct impact on what's coming next year. So, I don't want to spoil.
Yeah. No. We don't want you to. It's all right, man. Don wanted to know too: is it possible? Have there been talks about doing mass paperback novels like the old Sam and Al ones?
I'm not privy to that information. That's one of those internal things that I imagine Universal would be discussing with whatever their publishing imprint relationships are. Look, as a comic book fan, I would love to see us do comic books. I think it'd be really cool.
Yeah.
But that's I ain't got time for that.
No, of course. Well, and it sounds obviously like you're still going to be with the show as well in season 2.
Yes, yeah, Derek and I are coming back for season 2, and very excited. Yeah.
Wesley has a comment. I'm enjoying the balance of Problem of the Week and continuing storylines. Love the cast as a show we all watch together in my house. That's great to hear, man.
Yeah, thanks, Wesley. Appreciate that. Like we're a 10 o'clock slotted show, but really I think we could appear anytime in the primetime schedule. And we like that it is the kind of thing that is generationally watched, that it's not just, those of us who, grew up when the show was on the air. It's them and their kids and their families and their grandparents. Like we're for everyone. We want everyone to be watching because it's a lot of fun.
That's cool. Now, prior to Quantum Leap, obviously you were also part of the Arrowverse. And
that guy.
Yeah, exactly. This was your debut on Flash.
215. Yeah, Derek and I did we did that as a freelance, and then we're brought on staff for season 3.
That's excellent, man. Well, the Arrowverse obviously is winding down this year, so tell me about your experiences working with those guys. Guggenheim is a buddy of mine.
Arrow was great. We were on the last 2 seasons of Arrow, and we'd been on Flash. We were on Flash for season 3. It was a rough year. Not going to lie about that. It was a difficult thing. The show was going through some stuff internally, which has been reported in the news, and people may be aware of that. I won't rehash it, but we left after that, and we worked on a couple of other things, and then Beth Schwartz, who was taking over as showrunner for Mark, reached out and said, "Hey, would you guys be interested in joining the staff for season 7?" And so we went back in, and it was great. I mean, it was just such a great staff, good people. It was fun to be part of some of the bigger crossovers like Crisis. As a comic fan growing up, like how surreal is that? Did
you have any moments that you wrote for Crisis?
No. Sadly, no. I did not get
to.
Yeah, I mean, Derek was on set for some of the production of it, but we didn't write any of the episodes that were part of the crossover. But I mean, look, we got to pitch into it, like for the hour episode, so that was fun.
Excellent. Well, yeah, man. I mean, and it does surprise me that they wanted you back, given your long history with DC and those characters and everything. I mean, that's really great. I mean, again, I was watching when they passed. Green Lantern from Judd to you. Am I right? Yeah, it started with Judd, and then you got it.
Yeah, it's my Judd and I went to college together. Like he.
Oh, you're another one of those guys, Western Michigan, right or no?
University of Michigan, yeah.
University of Michigan. Excuse me.
Yeah, Judd, Brad Meltzer, and I. We all were in the same grade, same year, whatever grade. College. We were friends in college. We bonded over the love of comics and everything. When Judd was leaving Green Lantern, Bob Schreck approached me and said, "Hey, Judd's leaving. He really liked the 3-issue Legend of the Hawkman miniseries that I did, and was like, would love to if you're interested." I'm like, "Well, fuck yes." I mean, sorry, language. Sorry.
No, you're good. It's all right, man.
Yeah. No, I mean, my all-time favorite characters as a kid were Flash, Green Lantern, and Hawkman. So like to being given the chance to write that book, I was like, I will jump at that. Which was great. I was only on there for about a year before they decided to bring back Hal Jordan and revamp everything. So I was hoping to be a part of that, but I was not. It did not pan out that way. But it was weird. Like I was on the book at a weird time where there was sort of an editorial mandate of there's one Batman, there's one Superman, there should be one Green Lantern. And I was like, but what about the Corps?
Yeah.
There's an entire Space Corps. That's literally not the concept. Or at least the Silver Age concept.
You're right.
And And it was frustrating to not be able to get to do any of that stuff, only to then have it happen later. You know what I mean?
I have no doubt. Absolutely, man. No. Believe me, I know a lot of comic book writers that the job gets passed to somebody else and they get to do, the new people get to do what you've been asking to do. And like you said, certainly, and also Kyle needing the guidance of John and Guy, you know, and them hanging out at the bar and everything, and you know, helping Kyle out. Also, did you write the crossover between Kyle and Hal, where it was the younger version of Hal and everything? I remember that story.
No, I think that was Ron Mars.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I was on there from basically 165 to 175.
Okay.
Closer to
And then I didn't know because I only discovered your work when you started at DC, but I didn't realize you were also a Marvel guy and not only working on stuff like this, the X-Men Alpha Flight crossover, but also you were Bob Harris's assistant.
I was. I started at Marvel in the summer of '93, right? '93, yes, as an intern. I just finished college. In college, I had aspirations to be a screenwriter, and this is the early '90s, and we all remember the rumors that there's going to be an X-Men movie, and I'm like, well, hell, I'm the biggest X-Men fan in the world, and I'm going to write that movie. I wrote 2 scripts. I wrote parts 1 and 2 of a trilogy, and managed to get those in the hands of then president of Marvel, Terry Stewart, who interviewed me and was like, look, I can't do anything about these things. I can send him out to Marvel Hollywood, where I eventually got a phone call from Stan Lee, who was like, he's a great kid. You need an agent. I'm like, all right, thanks, Stan.
Wow.
Stan did not get me an agent, but it was a very nice conversation.
Yeah, but that's a nice, cool.
Yeah.
Good contact. Yeah.
Exactly. So, so Terry Stewart basically said, like, look, there's editorial. This is when Marvel was on 387 Park Avenue South. And he's like, the 10th floor is the floor you want to be on if you want to work here. And so, give you an internship for a few months, see if you can make something of it. And this is, like I said, '93. So we all remember that period before when the boom, before it went bust. This was the boom period. And I started in the special projects department under Bob Budiansky, Tom Brevoort, and Glenn Greenberg, and trading cards and posters. That's what we were doing.
Okay, sure.
So, my job was anything related to trading cards and posters, send artist reference, gather whatever materials they needed, all that stuff. A lot of FedExing, a lot of running around stuff. And then they were doing the, I think it was the Fleer X-Men '94 trading cards. And now my love of X-Men goes back to X-Men 107. That was like one of the first comics I ever got. That Dave Cockrum splash page of the X-Men, on was the moon, whatever it was, where the McCran crystal was. And it's just that one shot where Phoenix is in the background and they're all in the foreground. It's just, what a piece of art to open in a comic book and see. Blew my mind. So I had to gather the reference for the artists that were going to do all these X characters. And this was, again, early '90s, a lot of characters, a lot of obscure ones. And I knew pretty much page and panel where to find them. So I was in and out of the X office constantly. And Bob Harris and Lisa Patrick, his assistant at the time, kind of saw that. They gave me access to their files. And I made a good enough impression that Special Projects wanted to bring me on. I actually got an offer from Don Daly, who was the Punisher editor at the time, to be his assistant because he was promoting his guy, Tim Toohey. And I was like sort of weighing those two options. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not really a huge Punisher fan. And Special Projects is cool, but I kind of want to do books. And then I guess Bob Harris had heard that I was, being courted for these 2 positions, and it was like, walk with me. And he basically walked me down the L shape of the Marvel 10th floor offices, past the bullpen, and was saying, I'm going to be promoting Lisa to associate editor. Would you want to be my new assistant? And well, that was the rest. The rest is history. At this point,
that's great, man. Any other memories of being at the bullpen in the early '90s? Any?
Oh man,
great stories?
You don't realize how magical and unique a place it is until you leave it and you go out into the real world.
Yep.
It was the real world. It was a business. This was corporate '90s, right? Where Marvel, was a public company. I watched those stocks rise and fall precipitously. I mean, like I'd invested like $150 and had like $4,500 worth of value in stocks, and then it all just crashed. It was worth nothing. It's like, why did I sell? Because I had faith in the company. I believed.
Sure. True believer. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Died in the wool, true believer. And it was really cool. Like, got to work with some of the greats, got to work with Mark Grunwald and Ralph Macchio and Carl Potts. And, Larry Hama was writing Wolverine at the time. Like, Fabian Nicieza was great. Scott Lobdell, Mark Waid wrote on the X-Men for a little bit.
Yep.
We launched Generation X. We launched Age of Apocalypse. And I'll never forget the letters and the phone calls. I literally phone calls. I literally spent an hour on the phone with one fan who was so pissed that we were canceling X-Men. And I'm like, you just wait till the next month. Just wait till the next month. Yes, we're canceling X-Men, but just wait till the next month. Like, I couldn't say anything. And I just, for an hour, just trying to talk him off the ledge of like, I'm never buying a Marvel book again. I'm like, please, just be patient with us. I promise you it's going to be worth it.
Well, that's great to hear, though. Johnny Appleseed, one fan at a time. Just be patient, man. That's hilarious.
Well, listen, I did the letters pages when I was the assistant editor. I had to respond to a lot of those, had to pick the ones. I'm like, well, and it's funny because it was always like, put the positive ones. I'm like, but I want to put a couple of negative ones once in a while. Can I just do that? Because like you want to feel fair. You want to feel like we're not just going, pat us all on the back. Like, not everything we do is fantastic. And let's learn and grow from what we could do better. Sometimes the fans, fandom I know has become a thing these days, and it's no different. It's just they didn't have, digital access to us. But when you got those letters and you read one, you're like, oh, I kind of make a good point. And it's like, let's take it into account. But anyway.
No, I really miss the letter page. I mean, it's still there, but you're right. I mean, social media has certainly, eclipsed it. And yeah, everyone's opinion is really loud, really loud.
Yes.
I used to tell a writer friend, don't get into an argument with Vader 28. You're not going to win. They are determined to have the last word always.
Right. And,
no. And also, like you said, I know too, from being in radio, some of my golden year jobs where I can't believe I'm doing this. And it's definitely a business. But yeah, now that you're gone, you really appreciate that era and everything. So no, I can relate. Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. It was like, there was never a day where I got up and was like, oh, I got to go to work today. It was like, where I get to go to work. Like,
absolutely, man. No, you got a smile on your face as you're heading to work. This is going to be another great day. I totally get that. Absolutely.
And especially like, when you're working with amazing artists like, the Kubert brothers or Chris Pacciallo or Joe Madureira. And like, it's like, ooh, pages are coming in today. Like, when the interns would go and get and by the way, some of my interns, you all now buy their books regularly. You got Andy McDonald was an intern of mine. Frank Thierry, infamous Frank Thierry was one of my interns. I say he's my second favorite intern. I won't tell him who my favorite is. It might be him. But don't tell him that. But I got to work like those guys have gone on and been wildly successful in their own right,
Absolutely.
And it just, they would come in with these pages from the mailroom and you're like, oh, let's see what we got today. It's cool.
That's amazing. Yeah, absolutely, man. No. And I know that trait of seeing fresh art and what these geniuses could do. No, I don't blame you at all, man. So just a better offer at DC. How did you make the leap from Marvel to DC?
Obviously in the late 90s, Bob was let go, right? There was a shift to the, the Marvel Knights ethos and aesthetic.
Yeah.
And I just, for whatever reason, maybe it's because I was associated with the old regime, or maybe my work wasn't that good. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of different explanations. Like I started my career at a relatively youngish age, mid late 20s, in public, and sales were sometimes there. Sales weren't always there. So editorial goes, all right, well, whose books are selling and whose books aren't, and again, I'd been on a couple of canceled books that were never going to survive anyway, but for whatever reason, it left a taste. And, I found it hard to get work at Marvel. So I just, made inroads at DC and and even there, it's a freelance lifestyle. It's a struggle. Like I said, I got a couple of great projects. But then there was another editorial shift, and all of a sudden, some of the projects that were greenlit were reconsidered. It's like, so, I look at my time in comics as incredibly valuable and foundational. It was a growing experience that you need to sort of have hindsight on to sort of go, okay, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? None of us are perfect. No person that comes out of any creative industry, I think, is fully formed. I think you're constantly evolving and developing and growing and learning, how to do it better. And I think comics was that for me. And DC was fun too. I mean, we got to do some really cool projects. Got to work with Jeff Johns and I. Here's a funny story: is that we both, we worked on the Beast Boy miniseries together. Yeah, and I was in New York, he was in LA. We had both simultaneously pitched Eddie Berganza a Beast Boy, Changeling, limited series ideas that had similar elements from opposite coasts. And Eddie was like, well, why don't you guys work on this together? And we did, and it was great. And we had a blast doing it. That was a fun project to do, even though, we're just doing it over the phone and via email. And, I mean, the art on that book by Justiniano was fantastic. Obviously his story and trajectory took a much darker turn. I don't know if people are aware of what happened to him, but, did not, ended up in prison. And it's really sad because he was a real talent. But that, it's a guy who had his issues,
Well,
but he made great art
too, for that matter,
Yeah. He made some great art and so yeah, I mean, like I said, my time at DC was, again, another stepping stone towards something else.
Back to Marvel, were you in the office when all the bankruptcy stuff started to happen and things were kind of collapsing? And yeah, if you don't mind, I mean, listen, man, I've been in this position in radio where you don't know who your bosses are going to be. So I know that stress, but yeah, can you characterize what that time was like as an office guy?
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm in my mid-20s at the time. I barely understand the internal political workings of a corporate machine. All I know is I'm working on the number one book, right? And the number one family of books, I should say, right?
Sure.
Top 5 slots were pretty much our office. And my responsibility was to make sure that those books got out on time. So Bob had to deal with it more than I did. And I'd say he did a pretty good job of keeping it internal and among those that needed to deal with it. I didn't need to deal with it. Okay. But I did see friends of mine get affected by it. I saw people, I think it was 2 Christmases in a row, roughly, or toward the end of the year, people are being let go. Wow. It was 94, 95, 95, 96. I forget when it was, but that was hard to see because you just knew, the axe was coming down on people at a time where they should be celebrating rather than, suffering. And it sucked because it shouldn't be that hard, right? It's I don't know. It was a very weird time. I mean, we had 2 different CEOs, maybe 3 while I was there.
Wow.
Yes. But again, when you're owned by a parent company that's not interested in you other than the asset that you provide them, then it's different. I imagine it's a lot different today, right? For Marvel being part under Disney, which is at least an entertainment company, as opposed to Revlon, which is a cosmetics company.
Right, Ron Perlman and Revlon, absolutely, man. Yeah. No, there's been some great books. Carl Eichen's book, which gets very businessy, but really kind of did explain that whole period and stuff. And even Sean Howe's Marvel History book, I think, did a really, really good job as well.
Yeah.
I love, and I'm waiting. I really hope one day we do see this adapted into a film or a television show. But Living in Infamy, man, I thought that was great, and it's a great concept. Tell people about Living in Infamy.
So after I got fired off Green Lantern, I was like, all right, now what's next? And this is around 2003, 2004, I think it was. The title popped into my head, was like literally, I'll never forget. I was watching Conan O'Brien, and I was in bed and watching TV, and this title popped into my head, and like I was like, what is that? What can that be? What can that be? And I'm like, oh, Infamy's a town, and that town is got a secret, because you don't really know who your neighbors are. All your neighbors have secrets, right? Everyone's got their secrets. And well, what are some of the people in this neighborhood called Infamy? I'm like, well, what if they were former supervillains in witness protection? And that's where it started. The next day I called up Derek, and I was like, I got this idea. I told it to him. He told his friend Ashley Miller, co-writer of Thor and X-Men First Class. And he told his friend Rob Burnett, who's, we all know big time geek Rob Burnett, writer, director, editor of co-writer, director, editor of Free Enterprise, who, had some cash to burn and wanted to invest in making a comic book. So we made the Living in Infamy comic book, 4-issue miniseries. I was still close enough, to the comics world to sort of leverage some of those connections and reach out to John Cassaday, who's a dear friend, who was one of the groomsmen at my wedding.
Wow.
Did the cover for issue 1 based on that last moment of Goodfellas where, Henry Hill comes out and gets the paper, he's a schlub living in the suburbs and in witness protection. And then Howard Chaykin did number 2, Christopher Shaw did 3, and the late Tim Sale did number 4.
Wow.
So it was awesome. I mean, it was just such a, it's a suburban family drama at the core of it. And it's something that meant a lot to us because it allowed us to sort of play with the conventions of the comic book medium in a sort of unexplored subgenre, which is, the villain's perspective on it, and villains who have had their glory days in the past are now trying to go straight and live a normal, good, decent life, that end up having to rise to the challenge of becoming heroes because one of their own's past comes back to haunt him. So there's a little, History of Violence came out around that time, and I was like, oh shit, that's too much like it, but whatever, it's fine. We're just gonna write it anyway. It's different genre. But the whole premise is this guy Tom Blackbridge, who is he's Tony Stark gone wrong, but who never kind of had the impetus to want to use his genius to do anything grander than just be a genius and see what he can do with it. Who falls in with this guy who we always referred, Baron Scar, we referred to him as sort of a Dr. Doom-like world beater kind of figure, who uses his genius to do all the horrible things that he wants to do, all his megalomaniacal things, which is going great until the boss is engaged and Tom falls in love with the boss's girl, gets her pregnant, and now all their lives, his life, her life, and the life of their unborn child is in jeopardy. And so what does he decide to do? He turns state's evidence against his boss, gets him put away. They go into witness protection. 15 years later, suburban ennui has set in. Life has become sort of this misery. They're living in this small town in Arizona. He's the local mechanic. She's got a beauty salon, and their son's starting to ask questions about why is it we never leave this fucking small town? and those answers come to light over the course of the 4 issues.
Have you collected it? Is there a trade available?
No, there isn't. We commissioned a Matt Wagner cover, which we still have, which at some point we will get off our asses and put it together. I mean, oddly, like 2024 will be like the 20th anniversary of the concept.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know. I mean, we should get around to doing that at some point. We have developed it elsewhere. We took it to like one of the producers of Superman Returns was working with us. We wrote a feature version of it. We also did a television pilot script with Skydance back in 2013, 2014.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a while ago, almost 9 years ago. It just, it hasn't gotten off the ground. It's tough. It's like tonally, it's Ozark, it's The Sopranos, it's The Boys a little bit, but now there's The Boys. So that fills very much a vacuum. But I don't know. I mean, I think our thing need not be that over the top, and I don't think we ever really designed it to be over the top. We like the idea of these characters. They have some darkness to them, but they're kind of trying to find the light, so it's a little bit more optimistic and hopeful.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's interesting because in contrast, I think of the villains that are portrayed in Stargirl, which
Right.
just wrapped up, and you see them, in this what looks like a very innocent town, but obviously, you know, dark dealings are happening and stuff.
Right.
But no, hey, I'm a Donnie Brasco fan. I'm a Wise Guy fan.
Right.
I don't know if you and Guggenheim ever had a chance to really sit down and talk about Wise Guy.
No, I know that's like his all-time favorite. Yeah.
And I'm of that age as well. So no, I
Yeah.
love that show too.
Yeah.
But no, that's why I definitely and My Blue Heaven, the Steve Martin
Sure.
Rick Moranis
Yes.
movie.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's a lot to hell. Even right now, Tulsa King, I
Oh
think
yeah,
is
which
doing
I've been
a
watching.
great
So
job.
good. So I mean, look, it's Stallone. You know, he brings something with him. Like, by the way, whether he's bringing it intentionally or not, we're putting it on him. You know what I mean? Like, I think as
Yes,
we've consumed his stories for decades, like we just sort of immediately project a certain thing to him, which he's like, I'll just lean into that.
100%. No, this is so the right project at the right age
Yeah.
for him, and I'm
Yeah.
thrilled because yeah, man. I mean, I've been there for the highs, I've been there for the lows, and I've been there for some that people have ignored. Like, was it called Bullet to the Head? I
Oh,
might get that confused with the Costner movie, but he made like some cop movie, or buddy action movie, or a couple of years ago, and I'm like, this is great. Or I even love that Lionsgate Samaritan movie that he made.
oh yeah, that was recently released. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
see that. But yeah.
Yeah, it's all right. And it's interesting that you had Infamy at Skydance because I know they also I think helped make the honor guard happen for Rucka and
Mhm.
Charlize Theron and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's well again, good luck with Infamy because
Thank you.
I think it's a great concept. And all right, everybody, got to hunt down those 4 issues
It's
because
funny because I've been spending some of our vacation. I've got a shit ton of comics in storage, and I'm like, I downloaded an app to sort of catalog them, and for whatever I don't know why I decided to fill my free time with doing that. I got through like 6 boxes, and I'm like, this is going to take me years to do. I mean, it's a lifetime of books. Plus, like when I was working at Marvel, and Marvel and DC had an exchange program, so we'd get their books, they'd get our books. So I was there for 2.5 years. So that's 2.5 years of free books from 2 companies. Then once, when I was working for DC, you're on their mailing list. I was on that for like at least 3 or 4 years beyond when I was even doing work for them. And I'm like, I've got so many stupid books, but I was going through it and I found a bunch of, I mean, we had very low print runs on Infamy. I mean, that's their, you can find them on eBay, and I think maybe Mile High Comics might have some of them online,
okay,
but like, I found a bunch of issues 1 and 4, 2 and 3, man. Those are the hard ones to find. I was like, I don't have any of 3. I've got like maybe 2 copies of my own. That's it. So
that's
small
awesome.
independent publisher.
Well, I know a lot of collectors are shaking their heads, going, "Yeah, man, it is hard when you got to catalog the collection." And no, God, I was doing such a good job of decluttering, and then 2 years ago, I was a judge for the Ringos for the Baltimore
Mhm.
convention, and the amount of free books I got, I'm like, oh my God! And thankfully, I donated a lot.
Yeah.
I've got friends who have comic shops. I gave them books. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I hear you, man. It's and also I've had friends too that were on the DC comp list, and just the boxes that would come every month, and not just the floppies, but all the great collections, the graphic novels and the omnibuses and all that stuff. Yeah. Oof. Oof.
Well, just the sheer amount of media that they've produced that's been reprinted and recollected and like new covers, you're just like, oh my God, it's a lot.
No, I get it. That's funny. Rob was even saying on his YouTube show that he was getting rid of his floppies and really just sticking with Omnibuy and things like that. So
Yeah, that's a hard thing. The floppies, like when you realize, oh, I forgot I have this, like the things you come across, I'm like, oh, well, that's great. Why isn't this bagged? Like, what am I doing? It's a shame. How dare I leave these in storage unattended like this?
So, I mean, and no time for comics anymore. And I understand if that's the case. How do you feel about it?
Well, Derek and I are actually working on a book right now. With Jeff Johns, was kind enough to sort of want to put it under his Mad Ghost imprint.
Hey, awesome, man. I didn't know that. That's fantastic. I just talked to Jeff. Go on.
We're working with an artist that I've worked with in the past, Pete Woods.
I love Pete's stuff. Absolutely.
I mean, guy was always good, and he's just, up in a whole other stratosphere. So it's something we're doing. We're slow, but we're getting there.
Okay.
Hopefully, I think this year may see a release. I don't want to give away too much, but yeah. So that's something that is like, it's in the DNA. It never goes away. It's a way to sort of tell the stories that you can't tell, in screenplay form or in television form, because those require someone else to say yes. And then comics, of course, you need to find a publisher, but it's obviously a very different experience when you're creating something of your own, and you're not really beholden to anything other than sort of like, it's like being in a band, like, like working on, we're making a song together, we're making an album together, and it's what we say it's going to be, and no one else is going to tell us what it is. And that's kind of fun, get to flex your creative muscles that way.
Absolutely, man. Are there other TV projects that are coming up that we haven't discussed?
Derek and I have a script with Steve DeKnight. We're taking out with him. We'll see how it goes. We'll see. I don't want to jinx anything. Don't want to,
Yeah.
But it is, I will say it is a Western.
Oh, great.
And so, I mean, which again, so ironic that we ended up writing the Western episode. It's weird that we were writing a medical episode. That's so not our bailiwick. Like, we're so much more the sci-fi genre stuff guys. But our showrunner Martin Giro and co-showrunner Dean Georgiaris had a lot of faith in us. And while we were shooting the Western, on the last day of production, he's like, "The room just broke, episode 10. You guys are going to write it." We're like, okay, we're going to do that. And it was fun. It was because it was, it was more character and more emotional, and, a muscle that we don't often flex a lot, and need to probably flex more. I think, you when you grow up with genre, your first thoughts are always, how do I do something in the genre, as opposed to going, how do I do something that's human and relatable, and then go, how do I apply a genre filter to it? It's what we did with Infamy. Once in a while, you need that reminder, okay, how do I make something real and believable, and then, put the fun bells and whistles on top of it.
Well, again, I really think you're succeeding with what we're getting from Quantum Leap. And definitely that Western episode is a great example. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you do with episode 10. Regarding the new Western you're working on, and again, I don't want to go too far. Is it a period piece? Is it a modern Western?
Yeah.
It's a period piece. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I mean, yeah, I know the big vogue right now is Yellowstone, right? Like, everyone loves Yellowstone.
Sure.
And so it's cool. That's cool. That's just not, like, for me, like, if I'm a big fan of the show Vikings, right?
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to the Vikings Valhalla coming back. What I love about that is it feels Lord of the Rings-ish, but it ain't. It's real. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
Jason, it's historical fiction, but historical fiction is a genre unto itself, and, like, it can feel as elevated and as grand as anything that is, hyper real.
Oh, 100%, man. No, I'm with you. I mean, I do like, even before Yellowstone, I loved Longmire. I think Longmire is a really great show.
Yeah, I never watched that, but I watched Hell on Wheels, so that's
Hell on Wheels is a great show too.
Yeah.
No, I think it's, and at least myself, my experience, I grew to appreciate the Western more as I got older because of the characterization that even, God, going back to, 50s movies and 60s Westerns, certainly, you really got that vibe. So, no, I get that. In fact, Jeff Darrow and I always bond over the radio Gunsmoke.
Oh, sure.
It's a real good. I don't know if you like any old radio or a new radio drama for that, or audio drama, I should say.
Here's the funny thing is that so many people listen to, like, podcasts and audiobooks, and I'm like,
That your thing?
My ears oddly seem reserved for music.
That's fair. Hey, that's all right, man. Well, you're playing in live action, so you don't need,
It's a weird thing. Like, why don't I just sit down and listen to something? Like, I can't. I probably just can't sit still long enough. Maybe that's what it is.
No, and honestly, I'm amazed at the action that's happening in audio drama right now. And I just talked to a couple friends that are Ben Percy's doing a lot of audio drama writing right now,
Yeah, it's
and
huge.
yeah, and really no, they're putting a real effort into it. I was listening to the Batman audio dramas that are on HBO Max right now and available podcast wise. No, it's interesting, very strange.
Listen,
But
we love our entertainment wherever we can get it.
absolutely, man. Well, you're succeeding in what you're giving us, Ben, and I thank you for talking to me today. Really, congratulations. I mean, I'm so glad that things are working out for you in television and hopefully more so in film moving forward. And yeah, just keep up the great work, man. Quantum Leap, everybody comes back on Monday, the 2nd, and look for that's going to be episode 9, and then the following week, the 9th, we'll see Ben's writing on the Doctor episode. So that'll be fun to see. But yeah, congratulations, man! Seriously, great stuff. And hey, when you are ready to talk about something new, I hope you come back and we'll talk more about old and new projects with Ben Raab.
I'd love to, John. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. If I don't see you on a new show, Happy New Year, and then Ben, Happy Holidays. And I hope everyone has a great holiday break. And we'll be back in 2023 with more great stuff from Word Balloon. Thanks for watching today. Everybody stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.